Welcome to Resolve Office Hours. I don't know which episode this is at this point. I feel like I've done like 10 or 11 of these at this point. Um, Again, the idea for Resolve Office Hours is just to create a, fun, low-key environment to chat about SEO, to get your questions answered, to work through challenges and obstacles that you're facing for your business, and along the way, get some good insights from some experts here. Today we've got Charles Taylor joining us, and Charles will intro himself on his slide here in a minute, but uh, wanted to give him a quick shout out. As I said before, this is meant to be pretty interactive and hopefully informative. If you have questions that you want answered as part of the Q&A during the second half of the webinar, go ahead and throw them in the chat. If you want us to take a look at your website and provide you with some feedback and some ideas, or if there's something you're trying to troubleshoot in your own, efforts right now, let us know. We'd love to take a look at it. So it looks like people are kind of starting to stream in here. I'll go ahead and get us moving for the webinar. So today we are talking about New Year's ReSEOlutions for 2025. Basically, Charles and I, when we kind of started bouncing ideas back and forth, we were like, let's chat about the 5 things that you should be doing as you start off your new year with SEO. And the cool thing with SEO is that it's a constant effort of improvement. It's an ever-changing industry. Things are always shifting and moving around, and it's never too late to get started and to get on the right track. First of all, I'll introduce myself and Resolve. In case you are wondering how the heck I got into this webinar or who Resolve is, we are an SEO agency. We're based in Boise, Idaho, but we've got a team of SEO experts based all across the United States. I am Michael Johnson. I'm the CEO of Resolve. I started Resolve about 3 years ago now, but I've been in the industry for about 12 years. Over that time, I've developed strategies for hundreds of companies, ranging from SMBs all the way up to Fortune 500 companies and everything in between. What I love to do with these webinars is hopefully show you, teach you from some of the mistakes I've made along the way so that you can avoid those yourself. All right, Charles, go ahead.
Yes, my name's Charles Taylor. I think I've had I don't know, Michael, was I one of your first clients or maybe at least one of the first that we worked together? I think I had the honor to work with you very early on in your career, which
You
was
were,
kind of cool.
yeah. Charles and I have known each other for over a decade now. At my
Yeah.
last agency I worked at, we met there. And then when I started Resolve, Charles was my first client for Resolve. We were doing some work helping him out on some projects he had. No, definitely, Charles and I go way back. But yeah,
Yeah.
we've been in touch for a bit.
We definitely go way back, and I always call myself, I've been an SEO nerd since about 2003, give or take. I started out, just doing crazy affiliate sites, and honestly, I didn't know anything about SEO when I started. I created these sites, and I heard that you gotta have a website, and so I created a website, and then you have to put these affiliate things on. So I tried it out, and I think that was around the time that AdSense was starting, and then someone told me you gotta put analytics on the site. I'm like, what is that? I don't know. And I put it on there, and then I remember this line. I said organic traffic or free traffic or something like that. And I guess I fell in love from that point forward and continued on with my career over the last, I guess, 20 years. I've really ended up focusing and specializing on enterprise SEO. I worked for companies like LexisNexis, Martindale Hubbell, Verizon, and most recently Fox Corporation. I've dealt with a lot of large companies, a lot of large company issues. But what I've found is that often these large companies, they have the same issues as small companies, just at different scales. And I can usually take things I learned from a large company and show people, here's how you apply those learnings to a smaller company and vice versa.
All right. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead, man.
sorry, go ahead.
You got
No, I
it.
was just gonna say, yeah, the 2025 is here. So is everyone ready? Hopefully everybody already has their SEO resolutions set up. Hopefully you didn't procrastinate. I'm one of those folks. I like to try to set them up in around December-ish so that I start the year running. But if you didn't, that's okay because we're going to cover a couple of things here today with you and what we think folks should be looking at in the coming year. So So what we're going to cover is number one, stop playing SEO whack-a-mole. We want to develop a strategy. Then take action. Some SEO is always better than no SEO. And we're going to talk about content strategies for 2025. They haven't changed that much from 2024, but there are some things, there are some learnings we've had over the years that we want to kind of share with everybody. Link building strategies, again, the same thing. Links are still important, but what should you be doing? How do you future-proof yourself with the search engine? And then leveraging AI for SEO. And if we have time, we're going to have a little bonus after that.
Mhm.
So, number one, stop playing SEO whack-a-mole. What does that mean? So many times we have a site, or if you work for an agency, we have a client, and it's just month from month. You're looking, okay, what do we do this month? Okay, what do we do that month? And that's not a good way to do this. We really need to build long-term goals for the site, specific KPIs and metrics. You can have metrics like a rankings or an impressions, which really isn't a KPI, but it's a good barometer for how your site is doing. But you really want to make sure you have very specific goals, very specific strategies on how to reach these goals, and you want to set some milestones along the way so that you know if you're going in the right path or not. You need to know where you are and where you're going. So this is a simple high level SEO strategy. This is how I would approach any client, anybody who came to me and asked for help. I'd say, okay, number one, what are your technical issues? Accessibility, not accessibility in the sense of the accessibility, ADA guidelines, but accessibility meaning, can the bot access the site? Can it read your site? Can it read your content? Can it crawl your site? Do you have JavaScript links and lazy loading so that Google can't see anything? Do you have server problems? Or, is Google able to access your site? And then the next step you always want to do is look at your page content. Is your page optimized? Is it optimized for the correct words? And I'm not necessarily saying is it optimized well, although we definitely want to make sure we're optimized well, but are you optimized for keywords that are going to convert for you? Or are you just going for these huge top level terms, which while they're great to rank for and they drive traffic, they may not drive the right kind of traffic? Number three, authority. Links are still important. You always want to make sure you're utilizing both your internal authority, that's your internal links, and you're constantly building more links coming to your site. And last but not least, quality. Now, Michael remembers I've talked about quality for years now. No lie, this has been the same little, four pillars I've used for several years. And there's always been some discussion, or maybe I should say debate, as to whether user metrics were really part of Google's algorithm. My argument was always, hey, in a world without Google, user metrics are still important. Bounce rate, time on site, those are still important. What we've learned from both the leak and Google being pulled in front of Congress is that Google is looking at this data. They are watching us. They're watching everything we're doing. And so they know if people are coming to your site and bouncing off immediately. They know if people are coming to your site and spending hours on it. So we definitely want to make sure these user metrics are there, not only just for our site health and our business health in general, but we know Google's definitely looking at it now.
Great.
So I always say develop a repeatable process. So we had that big strategy, but you also want a more micro strategy. So here's a simple example. If we get somebody in who wants to optimize their GMB or GBP or whatever Google's calling it now, wants to do local optimization, you can't approach. Every client can't be a brand new process. There needs to be an entire onboarding process. There needs to be and if you have your own site, that's fine. You need to make sure you have all of this information together. You need to walk through the same 27, 37, 127 steps every time you have a client. Again, if you're an agency, you want to have a repeatable process. If you have your own sites, I've worked at companies where we had, 8, 9, 10 different sites. You need to approach each site the same. That doesn't mean every site needs the exact same work. Some sites are further ahead than others, but what my point is, you need to walk through the same process. So just like you'd walk through the four pillars, this is looking at it from a very micro level. Here's how you walk through a site, and this is how you can, I don't want to say guarantee results. Well, you'll guarantee some kind of result. May not always be the best result that you want, but if you walk through the process and use a repeatable process, you should have a repeatable result. And that's the key to good client management and just good managing your own site. Second item, take action. Some SEO is better than no SEO. And I say this because so many folks, when they start, maybe they get a new tool, or you get a new site, or you get a new client, or you're thinking of launching a new site, you end up analysis by paralysis by analysis. You think too much about it. You overthink it. You're trying to make the perfect content or the perfectly crafted title tag or the perfect. You don't have to. Just get it done. Get it done. Get it out there. I don't mean do a sloppy job, but just some SEO is better than no SEO. So you still look at the basics. Still matter. The Are there page errors? Do pages link to each other? Does every page have a unique title and meta description? Is each title and meta description unique? What about the content? Is the content unique and helpful? Is it optimized? Internal linking. You don't have to do it all. SEO is an interactive process. It's an iterative process. So the first thing I would make sure, again, just those 4 pillars, are we having any errors? No. And then that's all you have to worry about. And then the next step, let's get some titles and metas. Let's get some content. Really what you want to do ultimately as you start looking at your site is you really want to stack yourself up to your competitors because SEO is a race. You don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun the slowest guy running from the bear. So, and it's really the same thing with Google. We really want to see, and we want to do an analysis of how you stack up against your competitors. So I can show you an example here of one of the analysis we do. Now, this is a deeper analysis that we'll do. This is actually page 1 of a 6 or 7 page analysis where we take a look at your site and we look at against all the top competitors and say, how are you doing? So here's an example of Grow Resolve. I grabbed one of your pages and I said, okay, let's see how it stacks up. Your title tag. Do you have the exact match in your title tag? Do you have variations or LSI words or entities? I know some folks out there, oh, Google doesn't use LSI or doesn't use TF-IDF. You're right, it doesn't. But you have to have some kind of metric. Or do you have the keywords in your meta description? What about in H tags? Do you have it in your H1 and your H2? And actually, this report goes all the way down to the H5 to look for where are you strong and where are you weak. And again, it's not about doing everything. There's lots of numbers and something like that. It's not about doing everything. It's saying, hey, look, there's a gap in the title tag. Let's fix that. There's a gap in the meta description. Let's fix that. There's a gap in the H1 tag. Let's fix that. And then you let it sit, you let it bake in Google for a month or so, 6 to 8 weeks, and then you go back and you say, all right, have we gone up? Probably have. You make small changes, you will see improvements. But then you may have to reanalyze and look at it again, and then make the changes, wait, reanalyze. Again, SEO is an iterative process. But it doesn't even need to be this complicated. Let me show you a very basic, a more basic level analysis that we've done. And that is we simply take the site in question. We compare it against the top. There's this sheet actually shows the top 10 competitors, and I have an average of all the competitors. And we just look at the primary search queries. And then what I'll do is I'll gather together TF-IDF, LSI, entities, basically all the co-occurring words that would naturally come up in a conversation on the subject. And I look, okay, are we using the words, the search queries that we want to rank for? Are we using them in our title tag, in our meta description, in the body of our content? Are our competitors? So I can see right now none of our search queries in this example and are made by Amish, they weren't using the important keywords in any of their header tags. And actually what we found is they didn't even have header tags. So that was an easy solution. Like, there you go. H1s, H2s, we're done. We've already made an important movement. We can also look and say, hey, are there important keywords that we should be including on our page that everyone else is using? We should probably use them as well. So for example, Amish stores or wooden furniture, you'll see up at the top chairs. We didn't use the word chairs and everyone else is using it. Now, in that case, we wanted to rank for it, but yeah, you want to have that keyword in there. But this is a good way. It's very visual. It's an easy way to see, are we where we should be, or do we need to make any major moves? I also find things like this are a great way if you have an agency and you're trying to convince someone to take action. Like, I don't know if we should put that word on the page, or sometimes you'll hear feedback to say, we don't want to put that word on the page. You can say, okay, you don't have to do anything. It's your website. But let's take a look here. Everybody else are using these words. I think you probably should be in this case. In this case, you do want to go with the flow because Google is looking at all your competitors, looking at you, and if you're deficient, it may not rank you as well.
Yeah. No, this is this whole concept here for this first, goal of the year when it comes to just taking action, just getting started. I so often have clients that, the phrase I heard before is looking beyond the mark. Like they just, it's like sometimes the answer is simple, more simple than you think it is. And because you're overcomplicating it, you scare yourself out of just taking those first steps. And this concept here, just looking at your competitors. Get started by looking at the people who are currently ranking and ranking above you. See what they're doing, see where they're at, try to figure out how they got there. And implement those into what you're doing on your site. Look at it from on-page SEO perspective, like Charles was showing us. What do they have in their title tag? What do they have in their header tags? Look at it from a word count perspective. How many words are they putting on this page? If you've got an e-commerce category page and you're noticing that all of your competitors happen to have at the bottom of their page an FAQ section and you don't, and they're outrank you, add an FAQ section, right? There's just little things that you can do every day to get started and get moving in the right direction. You don't have to be an Excel whiz like Charles to be able to get started on SEO, right? Like there you could get going and get the ball rolling and start moving the needle.
You build tools, and that's one thing that we do, that Michael and I do. We build tools to do these things for us because as much as I love things like Excel, oh my goodness, if I had to manually build that kind of file every time,
Mhm.
I'd rip my hair out. I'd have no hair left. You build tools, but this goes back to the other point where I said repeatable strategies. So just like you have a repeatable process for ranking a site, you want to have a repeatable process for auditing a site. You want to look at every page the same, every website the same. If you're an agency, every client the same. So you're using that same ruler, that same metric to determine where are we strong and where are we weak.
Awesome. All right. So I think do I get to talk here? Yeah, this is
Yeah,
me.
this is
Woo.
all you,
All
Michael.
right. Hey, it's my turn. Cool. So top content strategies and tips for 2025. Again, things are changing in the SEO industry. Things are, progressing and moving. If you're still doing the same old, just write a piece of content with a few keywords in your headers and expect it to rank, just like the ski instructor in South Park, you're going to have a bad time, right? We want you guys to have a good time with your SEO. So some rules for content and things to think about as we head into this new year. Google is looking at the quality of content more closely than ever. You hear the phrase helpful content all the time. These are the questions that Google tells you to ask yourself about any content that you create. Number one, do you have an existing or intended audience for your business or site that would find the content useful if they came directly to you, right? One of the things that Google's really trying to figure out is, like, are you actually an expert on the thing that you're talking about? Why would somebody come to you to get this information? And why does it make sense there? That's why one of the big things that we saw in the last 2 years is a lot of like those like general guest posting sites that just post content from everybody and anybody. Their content or their traffic plummeted with these most recent round of updates because they had no set expertise. And so one thing you really want to do with your content is, how do I demonstrate my expertise in the area that I'm in? Does your content, that's what I kind of said a second ago, does your content clearly demonstrate firsthand expertise and depth of knowledge? For example, expertise that comes from actually having used a product or service or visiting a place. Again, if I'm writing an article about a travel guide for Edinburgh, Scotland, right? And I've never been there and I just use Chat GPT to write it and I put it up on my website, there's likely not going to be a lot of factors that show that I've actually been to this place other than just general information that anybody could find on the web. So Google would probably want to instead rank a travel blog that's actually been there recently and can tell you about it. Does your site have a primary purpose or focus? Again, stay in your wheelhouse, stay in your level of expertise. If you start branching out too much into areas that aren't relevant to you, it's going to dilute your expertise. After reading your content, will someone leave feeling they've learned enough about a topic to help achieve their goal? This is a great one because useful content. Like, is this content actually like useful? Can I take this and apply it and do something with it? Again, it's one of the big problems with a lot of the just like spun AI content that people are putting out nowadays is that a lot of it isn't really accomplishing these things. It's just giving you information. It's not necessarily providing that level of expertise and hands-on experience to help you do the thing. And then will somebody read your content, leave feeling they had a satisfying experience? So again, the quality and the level of our content that we're creating needs to take a step up. I'll talk about this in a minute. I have an AI slide where I say, if you're using AI to just at the lowest barrier of entry, just create a bunch of content, that's not what AI is for. AI is to help you automate or expedite the kind of hard parts, or not hard parts, but the parts that can be done should be done quickly, so you can spend more time being strategic and creating and writing better content. Use it as a tool, not as the actual only source of production.
Michael, if I can jump in real quick
Yeah.
on point number three you had about having a primary purpose or focus. There's a couple things I suspect the HCU content is doing. One of them is, and this is the way it's sniffing out these, especially the sites that were selling blog posts and these private blog networks, is they're looking at a page in the site and they're trying to determine if it matches the topic of the site overall. So if you have a page about let's just say I'm a plumber and I have a page talking about, I don't know, supplements, health supplements.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem for HCU. They're going to start sniffing that out. Now, most plumbers and local businesses aren't doing things like that, but let me tell you something folks are doing still. So the old way used to be, and a lot of SEOs, and I was guilty of it as well, tell you you need all this extra authority, you need all these topics on your website, and so you write about all these other things on your website and you end up watering down the topic of your site. A great example using the plumber is folks would tell the local plumber, you need 100 pages on your website talking all about, New Jersey or Boise or wherever you're from and talking about the local parks and the local this and trying to localize yourself. And that was fine. The problem is you ended up with a site with 125 pages. 120 of them were about Idaho or Texas or Orlando, Florida, and 5 to 10 of them were about plumbing. What is your site about? You've just basically told Google, my site's about this location, not about plumbing. So you have to be very careful about that primary focus. That's much more important now than it ever was. And that's one of the ways Google is, I guess, fighting AI content is if you're just throwing stuff up there, you're going to deviate from your primary focus of your site, which is not good for your business, but it's also not going to be good for your SEO.
Awesome. Love it. So one of the things I always give an example of that I have a fun time talking about is maximizing your results from your content strategy. And this is I've used Paycom as an example for like 6 years now. They capture 773,000 visitors per month in organic traffic. And these numbers might be outdated now. Maybe they've done better, but only 5% of that traffic was non-branded. So unless you've heard of them and search them by name, you probably won't find them in organic search. Now, they do all kinds of marketing. They have all the big stars in their ads. They're probably paying so much money to get these people on here. And they put a fraction of that into just creating some content, some valuable content online. They could capture hundreds of thousands of visitors per month. Meanwhile, they have smaller competitors, like Patriot Software and Gusto that are capturing hundreds of thousands of visitors per month of non-branded search traffic with their content strategy. So one of the things I always like to talk about is how do you put yourself in a position to capture this non-branded search traffic, to introduce yourself to new audiences through SEO. It comes down to what I like to call user-first keyword research. And again, this is a little bit different than how we used to do keyword research. Back in the day, keyword research was, what is the highest volume keyword? I'm going to create content for that and go after it. But instead, what we want to do is rather than just looking for the highest volume keyword, instead think about your marketing funnel. Think about the journey that somebody takes to discovering you, to wanting to work with you, to coming to you with a problem that you can solve. So that's what we start off is find what questions your target audience are searching for. If you have a marketing department at your team or a sales team at your company, ask them, what are people asking right now? What are the questions and challenges and pain points they're looking to solve? If you're the business owner, ask yourself that question. Why would somebody come to me? From there, find out what problems you can solve for them. What are the related challenges they might be facing? One thing you can think about is audience-focused content. So let's say I sell accounting software. There's only so many different ways that I can rank for keywords revolved around accounting software. But if instead I think about the day-to-day challenges that a CFO, a bookkeeper, or a controller would run into and questions they might ask in their day-to-day job, answer those questions. You can become a resource to them at that top of the funnel. So that's one thing I always recommend doing. One thing I love doing as well with my articles is doing a Q&A style with my headers and body text. So ask the question that you want to rank for on Google and use that as your H2 or H3, and then answer that question with the text directly above it. It's a great way to show Google, this is the question, I'm answering it right here. And then from there, another article type that I see doing really well consistently is just the compare and contrast type of articles where X versus Y, or what's better, this or that, or how does this software compare to this software? It's cool because number one, you can rank for the compare and contrast keywords, but also I see people being able to rank for the X keyword or the Y keyword with these pieces as well. So you're able to open yourself up to a lot of opportunities. And also these pieces often show hands-on experience, because if you are able to write an article that compares these two things, it probably means you have some experience with them. This is just a fun little thing, just showing how much traffic Patriot Software was getting with these articles. And again, these articles are simply just answering questions that their target audience might have on a daily basis when it comes to payroll and accounting, etc. There is so much traffic out there on the web, so many people looking to have problems solved. And if you can position yourself as an expert within that information gathering process, you're going to create more opportunities to drive business through organic search. Okay, this is just a fun little case study. This is a client that we took them from like what 10,000 visitors a month to 36,000 visitors per month just with blog content. Huge win there. So again, it's still a really great way to drive traffic for all the stuff that's happening right now with AI overviews and people worried about losing clicks. I consistently see people continually going to actual websites because they want to hear from experts. So make yourself an expert. All right, Charles, I think this slide was yours. Do you want to chat about this real quick? And then I'll dive into some link building strategies.
Yeah, sure. So top link building strategies. It's the basics, right? There's there's not that much new under the sun when it comes to link building. I think the key here when you're looking at the list is we're focusing on real links. And I suspect, I can't prove it yet, but I suspect that's part of HCU as well. Helpful content gets real links. It doesn't get fake links. And Google's been figuring out what are real links and what are fake links. I suspect one of the things that Google is doing is it's watching traffic from links. And if your link is getting traffic, well, then it's a real link. If your link doesn't get any traffic whatsoever, it might not be a real link and it might be devalued a little bit. But so how do we go after real links? Well, here's the easiest link in the world. Internal links. I can't tell you how many times I've run internal link audits on websites and see it full of anchor text, read more, or click here. You always want to make sure, use that exact match anchor text. Internal linking is one of the few places you can go crazy with exact match anchor text and don't have to worry one bit about Google coming after you and penalizing you. There's lots of strategies where you can take a look at, using Google itself on a site calling command, you can figure out if you've got a lot of pages on your site, you can figure out what pages Google considers relevant for certain keywords. And then Google's basically telling you, hey, build a link on these pages. So you can not only make sure that your internal links, your existing links are good, but you can build more internal links. Reclaiming broken links, that's a big one. Same with brand mentions, trying to get links from brand mentions. I'd consider those kind of the same thing or very similar. And then, engaging in digital PR. Engaging in digital PR is huge, but again, it's real PR. It's not just, an AI content that's been blasted out to 150 sites for $25 or whatever. That's not going to drive anything. It's not going to drive people. It's not going to interest the search engines. You want to build your campaigns, data studies, things that are going to interest people and then attract those natural links. So it's not really the digital PR that's directly building you the links. It's the interest that it will drive that will then build the better links.
All right. No, I love that. Yeah, I see a couple questions here. There's one from Matt Rogers where he's saying expand on fake links, please, and expand on real PR, please. The way I like to think of it is just like Google's been saying helpful content, helpful content, helpful content. I like to think of it as helpful links. So does this link actually serve a purpose on the page or the site that it's on? Is this a link that people might actually click on? And when they click on this link, will it take them to a page that's going to provide additional value or insight or help them to accomplish their objective online? So, to Charles's point, if you just pay a press release company to spray out 100 press release links on all these different sites, that's what I'd probably call that fake PR. Now, real PR would be, I went ahead and conducted a survey of 1,000 people within this industry to find out this thing, and it created this data point that I think journalists are going to be interested in within this space. I then reached out to the journalists to let them know about it. They loved it. They thought it was good for their audience. They picked it up and wrote about it. And now I've got links from, 10 journalists, I would take those 10 legit journalists that picked up my story and linked back to me than 100 uh links from just a random PR blast. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about when it comes to expanding on, the fake links or the fake PR versus real PR um, am I providing information or resources, or are these links going to be serving a purpose on the web outside of just getting me that link juice?
Yeah, I think a good point. So that's a good question. Good question. Like, what's a fake link? Because as an SEO, it's kind of obvious to me, but to a person, I think a lot of it would be, sometimes you'll get folks. Well, my first point is if you can get a link for $25 or less, it's probably a fake link. If you go to Fiverr or some of these other places where like, we'll give you 1,000 blog comments for $5, you don't buy those. Those. It's first of all, it's probably not even any good, and it could actually hurt your site. Links for the purposes of just purely linking aren't good. However, if you have, what does that mean? So, like, all right, well, if you have, let's just say, an X account or an Instagram account or a TikTok account, all these corporate accounts, do you have links in your profiles pointing back to your website? Those are real links. Those make perfect sense and are totally legitimate links. Should I go out and build, 5,000 profiles on miscellaneous sites just to have a backlink? No, that's not going to help us. But there are times that, so you kind of understand like the intent, and again, what Michael was saying, that you want to think about, are people really ever going to see this and click on it? If they are, then it's probably a decent place to put a link. If not, then it's probably a waste of time and money, and it could even potentially hurt your site.
Yeah. Yeah, so like a fun example there, Charles kind of gave a sample, and one that I run into quite a bit is people ask me like, "Hey, there's this company that I work with quite a bit. They're a partner of ours. We want to trade links. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, if you have a relationship and a partnership, sure, go ahead." Now, would I recommend large scale hitting up every site on the web and asking them to trade links? No, that's probably not very natural. But again, if you have a real relationship with somebody, there's a natural reason for you to be linking to each other. Yeah, go ahead. Um, all right. So in terms of strategies, this is a good example of a digital. Anyone who's attends my webinars has probably seen this a few times now. This is one of my digital PR campaigns I am able to talk about. So I will. This is one that we ran for a client. We went ahead and dug through all the Google search data. This is for a client that's an aquarium, so they've got like locations all across the US. And we thought, what's a fun animal related topic? Top 10 Googled monsters. So we found out that each state in America has a monster or a creature, like a cryptozoology, that gets searched hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times each month. We thought that was kind of funny, and we thought journalists might be interested in it. Sure enough, we pitched it out to journalists across the US. We got NBC New York to pick it up and link to it. We got radio stations in Florida and Wyoming to pick it up and link to it. We got paranormal podcasts to link to it. Again, we found something that we thought was fun, informative, interesting, etc. And people picked it up because they thought it was useful. So that's a good example of a way to get links. Other things that we love doing for clients is we do like these resource guides. I mean, these are all examples of resource guides that we created because they solve and provide valuable information for real audiences out on the web. So for one of our clients, they're in the direct mail space. We created a piece about the definitive handbook for veterans advertising their business. So veterans coming out of the military who are entrepreneurs, that's a real audience. That's a real group of people. And a lot of them might have questions on how they can advertise and grow their businesses. So we created a guide that walks through all that and provides additional external resources and tools that they can use to help them grow their business. We got over 20 links with this piece. This was one that we talked about. It's an employment law related site. We wrote an article about things that LGBTQ community can, expect when it comes to coming out at work and what their protections should be, what challenges they might face, right? Again, really valuable piece. We got some amazing backlinks with this. This one was a guide for economically disadvantaged communities. So again, low-income individuals, how can they overcome addiction? That can be hard when you don't have the resources that you need. So again, a helpful piece of content. These are all really good examples of pieces that earned, 13, 20, 25 backlinks. And these are all what I would call helpful links that are what Google's looking for when it comes to ranking online. So I love this approach and this concept of creating these linkable assets. In this case, it's a link generating guide is what we would call it. and outreaching and acquiring backlinks. The main concept I like to kind of coach people on is this idea of you have your main pillar or target page that you're trying to rank. Often these types of pages, these money pages, are not going to be very linkable. You might be able to pick up a guest post link or two to them, but you're not going to be able to consistently get links. So what you want to do is create all these supporting pieces of content that do earn links and internally link them to this piece, and then build links to those pages. And then that's a way that, like Charles mentioned earlier with internal linking, you can funnel that authority to these pages and help them to increase their authority. So build a few links to them where you can, and then outside of that, have all these supporting assets that internally link and drive authority to them. Links still matter. That's one thing that we've definitely seen over the last couple of years. For as much as everybody wants to say SEO is dead, link building's dead, whatever, it all continues to matter. 8 out of the top 20 ranking factors, according to SEMrush in 2024, were link related. So they continue to play a role in Google's algorithm and helping Google to detect what is valuable on the web. In the article by, I think it was Search Engine Journal? No, one of those websites. They talked about what they found in the Google algorithm leak that happened last spring. Link diversity and relevance continue to be two of the main things that Google's looking at when judging the quality of a link or a backlink profile. So this is something that Search Engine Land, where this came from. This is something I've been harping on for like 10 years. It's just talking about relevance. Relevance first, build relevant links. This is my I told you so moment. A lot of people get so focused on DA and having a specific number of DA with your backlinks. Sure, DA is great. If you can get high DA, DR links, that's wonderful. But relevance should always be first. I will take a lower authority relevant link over a high authority irrelevant link any day of the week. And that's been kind of backed up by these recent algorithm leaks. All right, Charles.
I didn't know I was sorry about that. I was answering a question, but yeah. So last, leveraging AI for SEO. AI is here. It is going to change everything. The problem is often people are like, okay, you got to learn AI. It's like, all right, well, and then if you learn AI, you'll make big profits. Well, okay, well, what do you do? How do you do that? Like, what's the strategy for doing something like that? Yes, exactly, Mike. The AI underwear gnomes. Thank good. I'm glad you got the reference. Next slide, please. If we could. So what I would typically do is like, how do you quote unquote learn AI? There's so many tools out there. Don't become a tool chaser. And I say that as a recovering tool chaser myself. I love a good tool. I just saw a new one. It had a $59 lifetime price. I'm like, ooh, for that price, I could get in. The first thing I always like to do is I challenge myself. What's the problem I currently have? And I try to use an AI tool to provide a solution. I do not, and again, do not use it just to create junk content. That does not mean you can't use ChatGPT or some of these large language models to help you create some content or ideate, but you just have to use it where it's appropriate. I always challenge people, stretch your mind in ways of using AI other than just generating junk content. You'll learn AI by doing, just start doing stuff. And so let me give you a couple examples. So obviously the obligatory AI content slide, Michael already covered a lot of this already, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. Just again, I caution everybody away from using AI just to generate a bunch of blog posts. The search engines have gotten wise to that. I even think that Bing, I can't prove it just yet, but I think Bing is spotting AI content and de-indexing it because I have test sites I'm always running, and I have one that suddenly just dropped out of the index for no reason. So just a warning. There could be a more than just the fact that it's not good content running out there.
Yeah. And real quick, there's a question from Lindsay Smith specifically about curious about our thoughts on using ChatGPT for blogging or as a shell for a blog and then putting your own touches on it. Yeah, like I love using ChatGPT for coming up with blog topic ideas, coming up with outlines for my articles. I think those are all really good uses for it. Even if you're like writing your article and you get stuck on something, you're like, oh, I don't know how to phrase this or what to say. Yeah, use it to help you figure that out. The main thing I'm always wanting to avoid is just saying, I need an article about, how to change a headlight on a 1965 Pontiac GT, right? Like that's not what you should be using Chat GPT for. It should be to help you within your process, not be the process.
So here's an example of how I use ChatGPT just recently for one of my own kind of personal sites. I was doing a page on burger challenges where people eat these monstrous hamburgers. And so the first thing it is I went to ChatGPT and I asked it for an outline. And it gave me an outline. I didn't like some of it. I liked other things, but like, really, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it. So I adjusted the outline. Then I fed that outline back into ChatGPT and I said, hey, give me what should I discuss in each of these sections? And it gave me a list. It gave me a sub outline. Then once I had that, honestly, then I started writing things up myself. Then I went to another tool I had and I said, okay, I want to optimize this for these specific keywords. This is my primary keyword. This is my secondary keyword. Please edit this article. Do not rewrite it. You always have to tell it, do not rewrite it to optimize. And it'll do a bunch of things. And it would always catch something like I'd always figure out, oh, yeah, that's right. I could have done that or I should have done that. If I didn't have an AI won't make that mistake. An AI will remember everything that I'm always going to forget. And then I'll read through it again and make sure it still looks good. And then I'll typically put it out there. And so AI was heavily involved in the writing of that, but what I didn't do is say, write me an article about burger challenges, copy, paste, publish. That's what you don't want to do. So there's nothing wrong with using it. It's a great way. Yeah, Michael just put a thing in a world where, additionally, furthermore, yes, there's certain words that AI uses, and I don't care how fancy you want to get your prompt. Don't use certain words, use this word or use that word. I've gotten all those prompts. AI still sometimes uses those darn words on you. So yeah, don't. There's a great way to use it, and there's a way not to use it. So here's an example. This was something I used that use AI in creative ways. I made this with AI. Thank you, Sora.com, Sora. And you can make these like little GIFs and things like that. And I gave it a prompt and I said, give it it was a party of Dungeons and Dragons adventurers sitting around a fire at night in 8-bit format. And it gave me this cool little GIF. Like now, this is a great way to use AI. I used my creativity, but I could never express this. There's no way I could ever create this physically using the best software other than AI. And so that's what you want to do. I've created all kinds of cool little SEO tools for myself and for working with clients that I never could have done before. But now that I have AI can create the tool for me and I can just give it the information and it pumps it out. So you use it to leverage yourself. Let's look at another example where we can use AI to leverage ourselves. Where can we use AI to add value where we don't have to worry about it giving us poor value? So here's an example of a little affiliate site. I kind of messed around with a test site and I said, and I used Screaming Frog to create AI generated alt text for the images. So if you had a site, let's say you have an e-commerce site especially, and you have thousands of images, yes, you could hire someone to spend all their time doing alt text. Or you could have an AI do it. And it's okay to do AI for alt text. It will explain it. You can even have AI, and in this case, I told it, optimize it for this primary keyword and this secondary keyword. And AI did it. And quite honestly, they did, I would say, 75% of the job I could do, maybe even a little bit better. Yes, when you've done something like this, you put it out there, then you'll often have to go back to the page, you go through the auditing process, maybe I'll have to tweak things, but this helps you get things done. So Screaming Frog and AI are great tools to help you scale yourself, help you leverage yourself, but not necessarily replace the thinking. You don't want to use a computer to replace your brain. Still not there yet. And last but not least, I think we have a couple minutes free time, right, Michael? We
We
can still have
do,
some
yeah.
bonus.
We got
Excellent.
another 15 minutes or so.
Excellent. So here's my final kind of resolution, and this is for myself, and I recommend it for everybody else. Diversify your organic channels. There's more than just Google organic search. There's image search, there's video search, both on the video tab in Google and in YouTube. YouTube's an awesome channel. We're going to look at an example in a few minutes. Bing and Yahoo are there. Yes, they're still small, but are you even ranking? Are you even indexed? I had a site, again, with my own personal site I was running, and I checked out Bing. I wasn't even indexed in Bing. I had to go in Bing Webmaster Tools, which I didn't even have set up for that site. And I realized I had some fundamental technical problems that Bing cared about that Google did not. And so I was literally giving away traffic. I was giving up on traffic for, a year plus when I could have been getting some level of traffic. So yes, will Google always be the 800-pound gorilla? Yes, it will be. But there are ways that you can build your brand, you can build your traffic through other channels, through other search channels. You can get referenced by ChatGPT. So Michael gave a great example of having questions with an exact answer. If you can get yourself picked up in Bing for that question and answer, you will often be referenced in ChatGPT for those questions and answers. So it's a great way to get yourself in other places. So these SEO and these AI models, they end up helping each other out in one way or the other. You don't have to attack everything though, just pick one. So I'm going to give you one example of YouTube. And so we had a client, and it's a little chopped up because I had to redact all the data. But we can see they came on to us at the very end of June. They said, "Hey, we have this video that we want to rank." And we worked with them. We talked to them. It's like, okay, well, it's about this. These are the three or four. We always come up with three or four, a basket of three or four keywords that are always tightly related. And say, okay, these are the three or four keywords that we feel will drive traffic to this video. We started doing some on page. We started doing some other promotions with it. And as you can see, it doesn't happen overnight. SEO does not happen overnight. But within a couple months, we were consistently on page one of YouTube. And then after a couple more months, we were consistently in that top five. Not always, but usually. And then we rounded out the campaign. You can't really see because of the numbers, but we had three of the items sitting consistently in number one in YouTube. And that one blue line was at number three, and it was going up against some very, very heavy duty competitors. One of them was Martha Stewart, and I don't know if we were ever going to de-seat her from the number one position, but it got us into a position that you never would have gotten before. And that brought traffic that these folks might not have gotten for these kinds of keywords on the regular search engines. People are looking on YouTube all the time. You want to make sure you're ranking up there, ranking for your brand, ranking for your service, ranking for your products. You don't always have to be number one, but you definitely want to be part of the game. You don't want it to be a zone where you just aren't competing and all of your competitors are in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my search engine optimization, there are so many search engines out there now. I mean, it's not just Google. I mean, who knows if TikTok's going to be existing in the US in the next few days, but I mean, TikTok in a way is a search engine. YouTube is a search engine. These are all places where people are searching to find answers. And if you can find that opportunity to diversify yourself a little bit, then yeah, those are all things that will help you. All
You can
right.
also use them to feed off of each other. So here's a great way of using something like a YouTube or a TikTok, one of these visuals. You do something funny, you do something a little fun, a little something wacky. Look at, and you can take something that seems boring. There's a channel of a guy who cleans rugs. And I don't even know if they clean rugs professionally, but it's a rug cleaning company. They take some of the grossest, most disgusting rugs possible and they clean them. And I tell you, it is fascinating to watch. I have spent 15, 20 minutes watching people clean rugs. But there's a great way where now I know about Mountain Rug Cleaner. I know the name. I know they're based in, actually, I think these folks were based in Scotland or something like that. But I know something about this company that I would never have heard of before. You see these videos of guys mowing people's lawns and edging things and power washing. Like, here's all the cool ways that you can get folks engaged in one channel and they'll start searching for you in another channel. So sorry about that, Michael. I just wanted to, idea popped in my head. I wanted to share with everybody.
Rug cleaning, the ASMR of
Yeah,
2025,
it
I guess,
was.
right? Whatever. Great. All right. Let's we got one final slide here. If anyone does want to, we're doing a little special as part of this webinar. Charles is somebody that I work with all the time, and we've been doing work together for years and years. So if we have any new clients or folks that want to chat about a link building or digital PR campaign, and want a chance to get a free audit from Charles, chance to connect and work with him. Again, I personally think he's a world-class SEO. That's my subjective opinion. But he can we'll include him on a package. So you go ahead and if you want to do that QR code, you can book some time with me to start chatting, start the process. And if it ends up being a good fit, then we can whip together a package for you. All right. Let's see if we got some more questions, and let's see who we can help out here.
I
So
answered a couple questions in the Q&A, Michael. Do you mind if I repeat the question and then the answer to everybody?
sure.
So Joshua asked about SEO strategies for educational setting. Joshua, I don't know if you put this in the chat. I haven't seen it. I asked if you'd mind sharing your website. That might be a great site to take a look at. If not, are you willing to share your niche a little bit more? It's really, though, the top level strategy is still the same thing. If you came to me with a site and said, hey, how do I optimize this site? I would first look at all the technical issues and make sure, can Google crawl the site without a problem? Then I would start looking at the content. Then I would start looking at the linking. Then I would start looking at the user metrics. So it would still be the same process. And Barb asked a great question about the best free link checker for broken links. Barbara, I'm sorry, I don't have a free tool for checking broken links. I do use Ahrefs. I realize they've gotten kind of expensive lately. They are a good tool though. You could also, if you had a target site that I want to go to this site and I want to get links from this site, you could download Screaming Frog's SEO Spider for free, and it can crawl up to 5,000 URLs, and you can usually find dead links in there. And then you find the dead link, and then you have to recreate the resource, and then you have to reach out to them and see if they're willing to fix the link and point to you. So that is one way you can do it for free, but that would there's a lot of time in there. So I would challenge that. It may not be as free as you think, but you wouldn't have to pay money to do that. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to answer that out loud since I did put some notes in the message.
All right. Awesome. Love it. And then we had a couple other questions here. One that came up is there's actually one earlier that talked about how do you, with link building, what was the con? It was like, how do you do this in an educational setting? Well, yeah, what SEO strategies would you incorporate into an educational setting? I'm guessing this is like a dot. Are you talking about like a .edu, like higher ed setting? Is that what we're referring to? When it comes to that, I've seen, yeah, higher education, perfect. Higher ed, one of the most important things that I've seen people do to find success is you can't just talk about your degree programs or what you do. You need to talk about the applications of those degrees. What are the career opportunities that you can trace that come from that? What are the salaries that exist, the job responsibilities? What does it look like? Like some of the degree programs and university I see driving the most traffic are the people who really dive into that type of content and expand a little bit more. There's another question outside creating a
Oh,
scholarship.
Michael, I'm gonna throw Joshua a free tip here. Oh, I'm gonna give you two free tips. So
Yeah.
one of the things you want to do is, especially if we're talking about like an educational institution like a college or something like that, that's reasonably well known, folks are asking questions about your brand right now online that you probably don't have pages answering. Make sure you answer, because if you don't answer, somebody else is going to answer. There's also, and Michael already brought this up about the comparison content. People are saying X versus, degree from here versus degree from there. They're asking some variation of comparing you to somebody else. Make
Comparison.
sure
Yeah.
you're in that list of people comparing yourself to other people. Because if the searches are happening anyways, so you want to make sure you're one of the pages that they're going to find.
Yep. Absolutely. There was another question about the home security space as well. Again, a lot of the tactics that I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I've done a home security project, but again, a lot of this, the core of what you're doing for SEO is going to stay the same industry to industry, but home security, I would recommend looking at those link generating guides as an angle potentially to get links. Also, I think digital PR could be really good. There's probably tons of data about home break-ins, robberies, state to state, even just crime rates in general. That's something that's been really big in the news cycle, especially during the last election cycle. I think you would probably have quite a bit of data that you could draw from to create a compelling storyline to then pitch out to journalists to get some links. So that home security space, I think you'd maybe have some really good statistic plays to go after for digital PR. Let's see here. We got 7 more minutes. There's a couple more in the Q&A. Speaking about rug cleaning, I find all the Yelp, Home Advisor, review sites, plus all franchise sites take up the first page. Is there any way to get past these? This was another question I saw a minute ago. Rizwana asked, how can I push SEO content higher on Google search pages if my competitors are government and local authorities? I work for an employment law company. There is kind of a balance you have to find of, okay, how high can I realistically push for this keyword? And is it worth making that push? If all of page one is taken up by .gov, huge brands that you're a small brand you maybe can't compete with, you might need to get more creative in your keyword strategy to find more mid and long tail keywords that you can win for and find success on. But if there's a competitor who's just a little bit more authoritative than you, and you just need to get some backlinks to quote, like those are the ones I think you can fight for. So I do think you kind of have to have a level of just realisticness in the keywords that you're going after based on the competitors. But yeah, sorry, that was a quick thought I had. Charles, did you have any other thoughts on those two questions?
Yeah, for those two questions, they're very similar, the .gov and the battling Yelp and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on what you're trying to go after, you may not be able to compete. So that's the bad news. The good news is often you can, especially things like Yelp and HomeAdvisor and even the .gov sites. They're ranking because they're part of a website with high domain authority. But think about a tree. They're an oak tree with a really thick trunk, but the branches are kind of thin, meaning the individual pages don't often have many links. So I've personally gotten clients and gotten my own sites to outrank Amazon's and Yelp's and some of these other sites with just building up some quality links to my page because their page, the only links they had were internal links. That's why they were ranking because there was lots of authority. But with a little bit of link building can sometimes help you. It depends on the query though. If you want to rank for White House, yeah, good luck. You're gonna have a lot of competition from .gov sites. But if you're looking for something that may be a little more mid-tail and definitely long tail, those sites are ranking just because they have domain authority. You can usually beat them out because it's a tree with weak limbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen that as well. That's one thing I will do quite often is looking, you can look domain to domain, but also page to page. And is there a strategic opportunity from a page level to be able to rank? All right. I'm trying to think of anything else. How can you differentiate yourself from other businesses that are same as you through SEO? I'm in a marketing agency. Of course, we all know how SEO works. It's very competitive. Is it just about content and more content? No, I don't think SEO is about content, and more content. I would say it's actually shifted a little bit. A lot of people now are talking about content pruning and trying to thin out some of that less valuable, unhelpful content. Again, if Google's seeing that you're just cranking out content for the sake of content and SEO and it's not very helpful, that can actually damage your site. So I've seen really good case studies recently where people's rankings have increased after thinning out less effective, low performing content and instead invested in updating and beefing up content that can perform or is performing well. So yeah, I wouldn't just say, if plan A didn't work, more, plan B is more of plan A. I would say have that legitimate plan B where you can shift your strategy and move. So yeah, content, links, on page, technical SEO. These are all things that you should be looking into. There's never going to be one piece of the puzzle that's going to make your SEO strategy work.
There's a good question in here about getting the gentleman was talking about getting your plumber in news cycles, but really just how do you get in the news cycle in general? So having worked for a news company, part of it is the news cycle. If you're trying to get if you're trying to get news folks to pick you up around election time or around the inauguration, yeah, that's not going to happen. But if you can have things queued up and when it gets a little slow news cycle, start pushing it out. So the plumber was asking a question. I was thinking to me like weird things you've pulled out of people's pipes, like a video of pulling weird things out of pipes or video of clearing out clogged drains, that kind of ASMR kind of thing might be kind of cool, might actually get people's interest. It's got to be a little bit of a weird twist. It's got to be something that's a little fun, and it's also the timing. The timing ends up being important because if it's a busy news cycle, it doesn't matter how cool your stuff is or how interesting people would find it, it's going to get ignored.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things is we are also egocentric of like the thing I'm creating is important right now. Everyone else is going to think it's important. So having that awareness to know what's going on in the broader news cycle and the timing of your outreach is definitely important.
There's a question about the value of that kind of traffic.
Yeah.
I agree that that traffic may not be hitting your target audience, but here's what you're doing. You're number one, you're getting high quality links from high quality sites. They're talking about your subject, about plumbing, but also it's your brand. So Michael talked about the one was it Paygo or GoPay, the one site that was just all about brand and no non-brand. I would say brand
Oh,
is important. Don't ignore brand. So if you haven't built your brand to differentiate yourself, do that. How do you build your brand? Do something a little different, do something interesting. Make sure you have all the major socials covered. And you're not just posting for the sake of posting. Try to put something up that you find interesting. And you're going to have to look for feedback. Everyone's not always going to find the same thing interesting. It may take a year and a half to figure out, oh, this is what people like to see. And then you start working on it. Building that brand helps you differentiate, and building that brand signal helps you in Google.
yeah. Interesting enough, right? Moz in the last year has come out with a new metric, brand authority, right? So That's definitely the case that building your brand and owning your brand online, like, Charles talks to me all the time about entity SEO. It's like having Google recognize you as an entity that only strengthens your presence in search. All right, we are down here to the final minute here. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. I just want to say thank you to everybody for hopping on. Hopefully you got some value out of what we shared today. I always have a blast doing this. I'll send everybody a follow-up email after with a recording and the slide deck. But if you have any other questions, or maybe your question didn't get answered, feel free to reply back. I connect with people all the time from these things, so happy to connect and talk shop with you. Again, thank you all so much. If there's I do not regularly ghost people. But thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you all soon.